Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another year-end wrap-up Best of 2023 video. Each and every year, of course, I do my reviews, but also taste thousands of spirits. And in the course of examining those spirits, I have my favorites. Now, of those, I do select bottles for this video that are fairly obtainable, right? Because you don't want to get these, I'm picking William LaRue Weller this year, some other single barrel that was only 100 bottles, stuff like that. There are great stuff like that out there, but that doesn't do you any favors because they are next to impossible to find. So, and especially for the price point on that Weller. So again, I try to keep the allocated bottles out of the lineup and try to give you things that I think you can probably get with a little hunting. You can probably find each and every one of these. So we're going to go ahead and get rolling with my Irish whiskey of the year, going to the Irishman, the single cask sherry. Now, there are a lot of single casks that they do, but these are all the 17-year-olds done in sherry casks. Fantastic Irish whiskey at $150, right around there. Now, if you don't feel like spending $150, and I just have this as a marker because I'm going to put the actual bottle right here. What it is, because I don't have the bottle, is the Whistler PX I Love You. Whistler PX I Love You is just that. It's Irish whiskey finished in PX casks. Very, very solid blend for only $40. Now, is it this? Because this is my marker. This was that old 7-year-old Whistler that they first came out with cask strength. It's not that. But these are long gone. But if you do see these, you should definitely pick these up. But the PX I Love You at $40, fantastic blend. Moving on to Scotch, single malt of the year. For me, it's going to go to the Knockando 21, an official bottling, 21-year-old. Lots of flavor in that bottle. Retail pricing about $125. You might have to pay $150 if you're shipping it. But even at $150, I think this is a very solid buy. Lots of depth of flavor. Now, if you want to save a little bit of money, but you don't want to get an official bottling, look at the independent bottlers. They are still doing great, great work. One of those being the Signatory Unchillfiltered line. Signatory Unchillfiltered, look for the cask strengths. This happens to be a secret Orkney, which if you ever taste it, it's not a secret anymore because you only have 2 distilleries there, Scapa and Highland Park. This is not Scapa. This is Highland Park. They do a 13-year-old. They do different ranges, but they're all really solid and well-made whiskeys. The only difference, and I think the only reason they got rid of these barrels, because I happen to have another one back here by the Single Malts of Scotland. Gets that darkness. This one is just a little, they have a little more hickory or wood smoke to the peat. A little heavily peated compared to what your typical Highland Park profile is. So I think because of that, they kind of sold those off. So we're seeing both sherried versions and a lot of, again, first, second fills and stuff like that coming out. But speaking of another single malt of Scotland, because pretty much everything they've been doing is really well done, this Ben Nevis was fantastic. So basically, I'm just highlighting those 2 independent bottlers to keep an eye out for. All right, next up, blended whiskey of the year. Blended whiskey of the year, that sounds crazy because most of the time blended whiskeys are not very good, but this year, and the last couple years actually, they've been kind of focusing on bringing that a little back. And fortunately, because you're able to blend different distilleries together, you can end up with some really crazy, and some grain whiskeys in the case of this Dewars, with some really crazy aged expressions. This Dewars 21 is going to be my blend of the year. Retail pricing on it is about $100 for the 750 ml bottle. They do a half bottle at $375 that retails about $55. Both of those are really, really well done. PX cask influence, as you can tell by that color there. It's very, very dark. But delicious whiskey. Add a little rock, pour it on a rock. It's fantastic. Runner-up to that is going to be the Cadenhead 7 Stars. The Cadenhead 7 Stars is a 30-year-old blend. Retail pricing on it's about $150, $175, somewhere in there. And while it's very, very good, I find the Dewars to be a little bit better on, especially on the quality to value ratio. So that's how come that got the win. All right, World Whiskey of the Year. I was trying to rattle my brain. I was like, World Whiskeys. There wasn't a whole lot out there this year that really kind of, besides this Japanese line coming up, that really made a huge impression on me. So because of that, the one that did was the Indri. And this is the standard bottling Indri at about $45. This single malt is finished in PX casks and wine casks, but it is a flavor bomb. This thing has so many complex nuances to it. Even at $45, it's phenomenal. Now, if you can afford to find the what they call the Indri Drew, which is basically the cask strength version of that, this one's about $125. It's really good. Problem is, I actually enjoy this one, the proof down version, even more. I think once you either have to let this Drew breathe for like probably 6 months to a year before it's going to hit its right spot, or you have to add water. And if you're going to add water, you might as well buy this one at 45. So Indri is going to get that little crown. Let's see. Now, Canadian Whiskey of the Year. This one I was kind of going back and forth for a little bit, until I remembered the Found North line. And I was like, that's the win. Easily. Found North, the 17-year-old rye is going to be my pick. Of course, they do a lot of single barrels. They do a lot of different batches. But everything, whether it's that 17 or just this 8-year-old bourbon, these are great, great values. At 125, they'll contain whiskeys about 20-ish, 22, 25-year-old whiskeys in the blends. Really well crafted. Even the 8-year-old has those old 20-year-olds in it. Now, if you can't find any of the Found North, this one you definitely can find. The Gooderham Worts. This is the 4-grain blend. This one's about $35. Great cocktail mixer. Great sipper. It actually works really well. Lots of good flavor coming off those 4 different grains. And this one is going to be a very close runner-up, believe it or not. Even though it's much lower proof, that one's only 88.8 proof compared to a lot of the cask strength Found Norths, but for the price point, that's a great, great pickup. Now, another one, this one actually got named last year, but I had to do it again because I just reviewed a new bottle of it, and it's still phenomenal. The Lot 40 Dark Oak. This one at $65, $80, somewhere in there, is fantastic. 100% rye, lots of flavor. It uses that number 2 char and then followed by a little finishing on a heavy number 4 char. All right, moving on to that Japanese Whiskey of the Year. This one, you know, when I tasted it, it immediately jumped to number 1, like by leaps and bounds. And that rarely happens, but it happened here. The Shibui line of whiskeys is fantastic. Now, the thing to know about Shibui is they do 2 different distillery profiles, basically 2 different distilleries for half of the line. The younger $60 to, I think, well, the 10-year-old pure malt is $150, but that line that you'll see it, I see it at Total Wine, that's from a different distillery than this line. When you start getting into the 10-year-old white oak, the 15-year-old, which is my runner-up, and then the 18-year-old, when you start getting into these are from the, and it says it on the back, so these are from the Okinawa distilleries. And so I want to say the other one was the Niigata, Japan. And so these Okinawa distilleries are the ones that use the koji rice. So the koji inoculated rice, very similar to how they make sake or the shoju and all that. So these have a flavor profile that is very rich, decadent as far as like a vanilla cream, and a big mushroom, damp cellar earthiness to them. Phenomenal. Price point $150 for the 10-year-old white oak, $220 for the 15 sherry cask, and these are Manzanilla and First Fill Sherry and Fino. And then this 18-year-old is actually, I think this one is Manzanilla and Ex Fino, Manzanilla, and Sherry Oak. Yep. Bourbon of the Year. Bourbon of the Year was close. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof was delicious this year. But in all my travels, the one thing people ask me, like, when you're at a bar, what are you looking for? Believe it or not, I always like to go bottled in bond. I don't like to go into crazy, you know, rare bottles because you're going to pay pretty much the price of the bottle for a 2-ounce pour. But I love to find Henry McKenna's on the bar back, all right? When I see those Henry McKenna's, they're all single barrels, but they've all been really good. And even my worst single barrel that I've ever tasted of a McKenna is better than a lot of standard bourbons that you see on your shelf here and there. Price point on the Henry McKenna is $65. Now, the next one, a little harder to find. This one's duty free, but I see it a ton at auction. I see it a ton on different secondary groups, right? And that is the Wild Turkey non-chill filtered rare breed. This is a liter bottle of Wild Turkey rare breed, 116.8 proof. Yeah, 116.8. The only difference between this and the standard version you see on your store shelves is the non-chill filtering. It makes a difference, all right? You can taste the difference, and I know it's a blend, it's a different blend, but you really can taste the richness in this bottle. $54 if you're traveling duty-free. If not, you can look at auction sites and probably pick this bottle up for about $100, and I still think at $100 it's a good value. So that's going to be a runner-up offering, and this one, Baker's 13. This is just now coming out in my area. Here we are mid-November when I'm shooting this, but these are still out there for us. About $135, $130, somewhere in there. The Baker's 13 single barrels are just as good that I've had recently. I've had a couple of them. They're just as good, if not better, than the originals that came out a few years back. So if you see the Baker's 13, it's worth picking up at $130, $135. Rye of the year. This one was hands down pretty much taken early on by the Jack Daniel's single barrels that came out. The Jack Daniel Ryes, each and every year that they do these, are probably the best thing Jack Daniel's does. Close second is going to be their barrel-proof bourbons, but even those are kind of like hit and miss, to where the ryes seem to always be on the hit profile. So these are really, really well done at about $70, and they're still sitting out there around me. So hopefully you can get your hold of one of those. If you can't, a lot of these Rossville Unions single barrel picks are still out there. About $50 for a Rossville. Really well-crafted ryes there. Now, this next one I put in the rye category. It's not technically a rye, okay, but has a lot of rye whiskey in it. And it's weird, but Bhakta. I mean, what do you expect from Bhakta, right? The Bhakta 1928 is what it's technically called, is a blend of 60% rye, 30% Calvados, and 10% Armagnac. And some really old Armagnacs going back to 1928 are in that blend. But to me, that big old Calvados, when it starts getting again into that mushroom, dank cellar, musty oak barrel profile, is perfectly blended in with that rye, that 60% straight rye that's in there. And this is a very elegant, soft drinking spirit that has a lot of flavor, a lot of flavor. This is only $65, and when I tasted this, not knowing that, I thought this was going to be $200. So $65 for the Bhakta. Now, if you go on Bhakta.com right now, they show it in stock. That's batch 2. This is actually batch 1. I don't see any laser codes or anything on here to tell me the difference. I just happen to know that I got this on the first go round, and these are what are on shelves right now as of mid-November. Now, by the time we get to this on YouTube, mid-December, yeah, these are probably going to be batch 2 on the shelves by then. So I can't vouch for those, but these batch 1s were really good. And I think even at $65, it's worth the try, even if it's batch 2. Speaking of different batches, Tequila of the year. This was another one that was not hard for me to pick. La Pulga Añejo is going to be my pick for Tequila of the year. Priced at about $70. This is an additive-free tequila that has a lot of unique nuances to it. To me, it has a lot of almost like peach rings flavor, a little peach going on in there. And sometimes it develops early, like one of the batches I had, actually the peaches come out as soon as you pop that bottle, there's peaches, and then it kind of softens and kind of blends a little more into the agave as it, oxidizes. And this first batch actually did the exact opposite. Actually popped it. It was more focused on the agave up front, and then the peaches started to develop after it was open for about 2 to 3 weeks. Either way, I love both batches, and I think at $70, that's a really good buy. If you can't find the $70 Añejo, because I know that just came out, the Blanco and the Reposado are equally good. If you like the pure tequila, right, want that fresh agave flavor, this Blanco at about $45, $50 is really, really solid. One other honorable mention, which I don't have the bottle, but I'll go ahead and impose it right there, is the Suerte line. Whether it's the Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, phenomenal tequilas. Matter of fact, I mean, just the value on those is amazing. And I think the Añejo is like $55 and the Blanco is like $35. If I couldn't find the La Pulga line, that's the line I'm going to. All right. Agave Mezcal of the year. Even though technically some of these, you know how they do in Mezcal, some of them don't want to get the certification. This one is the Pechuga Mole Poblano. The Mole Poblano Pechuga is actually retailing at about 125 to 150, so it is up there. But all those flavors that you get in a traditional mole, being those ancho chilies, the poblanos, the walnuts, those different uh, apples and stuff like that, they come through on this bottle, and it's ridiculous. So that's going to be easily my mezcal of the year. Runner-up's going to be another Pechuga, the Monte Lobo Pechuga at 125. Now this one, it's very, very satisfying if you're a mezcal drinker. The only problem is that price point. I wish that was a little lower. I know in Mexico I got this bottle for like $80. I think that's where that should be, considering where this one is and the quality to price ratio. All right. Moving on to Rum of the Year. Now, Rum of the Year, this category spans the gamut of flavors, okay? I selected the Dorley's 14 as my Rum of the Year. It's out there, it's available, price point at about $50. It's just a really well-crafted rum with no added sugars, right? Now, if you just like a nice, easy drinking, middle of the road rum, that's going to fit the bill perfectly. You can even serve that on a big ice rock and it's going to be delicious. But if you're a little more seasoned, if you're into big rums, right? One that I was able to get hold of, and I'm actually going to show this first, is the Still Strength Blanco from Balcones. Now, this was a distillery-only release, but their regular still was very clear, right? Their regular clear rum is really, really solid. And this one was only $52 at the distillery. So if you're ever in Waco, Texas, stop by Balcones, pick up some of their stuff there. They always have these special releases there that are always fantastic. All right. And that one is going to be more on that kind of candy corn, that big flavor. It does not drink its proof. And I want to say the proof on that one was, 138 proof. Doesn't drink it. It drinks, like a 110, somewhere in there, 107. It's not big, but it's very mouth coating. They have that two big pot stills there, so of course they're doing really good things with their rum. All right, but you're into big rum, but you're also into that kind of funky flavor. You need that depth. You need that deep into the rum pool, right? As I like to say. The Clairin Sajous, I think I'm saying that probably horribly, but this one is a Haitian rum. This one is 55.2%, and the Clairin Sajous is only $65. It's an agricole rum, so you're going to get a ton of that pure sugarcane vegetal funkiness. Matter of fact, I might even... Oh my goodness, yeah. This one is going to be reminiscent, if you've ever had that, I think it was called Paranubles, the Mexican agricole rum. Very similar to this one, but again, if you need that big, dense flavor, if Jamaican rum seemed like a little soft to you, this is where you go. This is the deep end of the rum pool. Now, again, if you're just getting into rum, don't go there. That's not good for you. Start here, okay? All right. Now, Brandy of the Year. And I went ahead and put these together because this year, I'm going to be honest, Cognac, to me, it wasn't a good year for Cognac. Okay, there was some Armagnacs that did great things, but not Cognac. So I didn't even include a Cognac this year. But, I mean, there was a couple from K&L and stuff that were good, but this one was just clearly the winner. This was the Delord Armagnac, 1975. This was a 46-year-old Delord. This one is 80 proof. Yep. Yeah, 80 proof, but there is so much flavor in this one. And the thing that amazed me about it was the fact that at 46 years of age, it wasn't all wood. There was lots of tangy fruit. There was lots of vibrant life left in this one. So because of that, that gets the win. Runners up, and this can be found different places, the Bhakta Armagnacs. But these are the single barrels. The single barrels only run about $100, all right? About 21 years old. This one happens to be from Regency down in Florida. But 21 years of age, they are higher strength. I want to say they're 54%. I was going to say 55. 54% ABV at $100 for a 21-year-old Armagnac. Thing to note about both of the Bhakta, the single barrels, and this one, the Delords, they love to breathe. So if you get it, drink it down past that shoulder, get some air in that bottle, and then just let it sit there for like 3 months if you can. 6 months would be better. But once you start getting there, you'll see that spice edge drop off, and it actually picks up a big roundness to them. They get really good. All right, moving on to Vodka of the Year. Vodka of the Year was really, really close call because as much as I love my runner-up, I was just tasting them side by side, and I was like, look, this one is the better vodka. It is a little more expensive. It is a little harder to find, but overall enjoyability, I had to give the win to this one. The Zakuska Vodka at $35. Comes in a nice little custom bottle. It's very, I would call this one not super clean. It'll make a fantastic martini, but this one is reminiscent for me of the old Belvedere, what was that called? Diamond Unfiltered. The old Belvedere Diamond Unfiltered, or the old Reka. That was an Icelandic vodka that was big, rich, flavorful. Even the Jean Marc XO, those were very similar. Silky, rich, mouth-coating vodkas. Well, this does it at about $35. So if you can find this one, the Zakuska, it is delicious. Now, one that's probably going to be easier to find, I know here in Texas it's kind of everywhere, is Goodnight Loving. Goodnight Loving at $20 for a 750 ml bottle. It's kind of ridiculous. Lots of clean flavor, but it is not quite as viscous as this one. But it is a little cleaner than that one, okay? But if I was to mix a martini, I could see both of them working well, but you're gonna pick up a little more flavor in this one. So that's why it got the win. All right, Gin of the Year is gonna go to a very small distillery out of Duluth, Minnesota. The Vikre Spruce Gin at 90 proof, priced at about $30, okay? And this is a half bottle here. But they also do a couple others, but this one was fantastic. And to me, hands down, my favorite gin of the year that I had. Another good one that I had, but it's not quite as viscous. This gin was really nice. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and crack it and smell it. Yeah, it's a little citrus forward. Good balance of citrus and juniper, to whereas the Vikre, yeah, a little more of the spruce juniper on it, but to me, I know how silky and soft that bottle is. So that's going to be my gin of the year. This is going to be a runner-up. Of course, if you can't find either of those, listen, I didn't want to pull them out again because, you know, even though they're still making great stuff, but to me, the Graywell gin is still really good. Who else has been doing really good? Oxley, even with that new design bottle, it's still nice. But Graywell's still really good, and so that would be another runner-up that I would mention. But I hope you enjoyed this video review. If you can, please join us over at patreon.com/LiquorHound. That's how I'm able to keep this channel alive, because I do self-purchase pretty much all the bottles you see, with the exception of a couple borrowed bottles. And of course I had to do impose because I don't own those yet, but I'm having to self-purchase all these. And so it's with the help of my patrons that I'm able to continue doing this channel, giving you unbiased reviews. I'm not beholden to anybody, not sponsored by anybody. So that's the purity of my channel, and I've always done it like that from day one. So I'm going to try to keep doing it, but it's only with your help that I'm able to. So again, patreon.com/LiquorHound if you're able. If not, I thank each and every one of you here on YouTube. I've been doing this for almost 14 years now, and it's been quite the ride, and I'm going to try to keep it going. But thank you, each and every one. Keep leaving all those great comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.